Okay, I think we have a solid audience now. So Shane, if you're ready, I'll get started with the introduction. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the NITheCS Micro School. Our speaker today is Shane McFarthing from Stellenbosch University. He's a third-year PhD student in physics. His research is focused on the development of quantum algorithms for applications suited to modern quantum devices. He's given a few mini schools and micro schools in the past, so I'm sure the audience is by now familiar with him and his excellent presentations. And today, especially, is a good one because he'll be giving us an insight into how to make such amazing presentations with an introduction to Canva for effective presentation design. And I'd like to invite anyone to, if they have any questions throughout the presentation, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them towards the end of the micro school. And without further ado, I'd like to hand over to you, Shane, to get us started.
Great. Thanks, Dean, for that great introduction. Okay, let me just share my screen first. Okay. Hope you can all see that. Let me just figure out what quickly happened to my Zoom window. It disappeared. Okay, anyways, I'm going to assume that you can see my screen. So like Dean said, okay, perfect. Today, I'll be giving a presentation on presentations. So I think this is something that is relevant for a lot of people. I mean, spend a lot of time making presentations to show our work, to do like summaries of our results, and it's a really important form of communication in today's day and age, where we have to be able to combine and compress a lot of information and effectively convey that to an audience so that they can understand exactly what the takeaways are. And for this, I found that Canva is a really, really powerful tool. I've been using it now for the past few years, and it's really made my life a lot easier. And I'm hoping that by the end of today's micro school, that I can hopefully help you make your life easier too, and just show you the core things that you need to get started using Canva. So the first thing really, and it's a really important thing on presentations, regardless of if you're using PowerPoint or Canva or any other tool, is being able to focus on the message of your presentation, being able to really fine tune and pick out what it is that you're trying to get across and how to communicate that effectively. So even though today I'm going to be talking about like specific functionalities and features in Canva, the really important thing is at the beginning of a presentation to sit down and think, how can I effectively convey this message to the people that I'm presenting to? And I found in it from my experience that a big thing that gets in the way of that is, you make the presentation and you want it to be good, and we know that involves visuals. And I'll admit honestly that my skills in PowerPoint are fairly limited. So trying to make a really attractive presentation in PowerPoint for me would take a very long time. And it detracted from being able to focus on how I wanted to structure my presentation, because instead I was thinking, how do I need to pick the colors? How do I need to lay it out? And I spent less time thinking about exactly how am I going to break down this dense topic that I'm trying to communicate and make it understandable in a really intuitive way. And why I found that Canva helps me is that I'm not a graphic designer, and I'm sure graphic designers can make stuff better than Canva, but Canva serves a really good purpose in that it allows you to very quickly elevate the quality of your designs and of your presentations. Like, since I started using the stuff I'm about to show you, the amount of time it takes me to make a presentation has drastically decreased. Instead of maybe sometimes taking like a day or two or even longer if you're making a very involved one, I've whipped up presentations in like 15 minutes before and had it look as if it didn't take 15 minutes. And that's purely because Canva allows you to kind of offload the burden of a lot of the visual stuff, and you don't have to do the work for that. And then that gives you the time to focus on the message and how you want to structure it efficiently. And probably the meat and potatoes of today's presentation, and of the stuff that if you were to take away one thing from this talk on how to get started with Canva, it's templates. So in Canva, they have such a thing called templates, And they have various different document types, from presentations to Instagram posts, different aspect ratios, just normal documents. And in a lot of them, they have templates that are available that have been created by somebody else. And that person has typically put in all the work to make that presentation look how they want. And the nice thing is it then makes it accessible to us to very quickly port our information into these templates, and that helps you to make a really good looking presentation very easily. So for example, the presentation that I'm using, I use the template for that. And I have some examples of some templates here, and I've linked them. So we can take a look at how the template is. So I've edited the first page of this, but this is just a template that's available. I think the topic of this is like social media or some branding thing. And like, this looks very professional. I definitely wouldn't be able to make this myself. There's other templates of different styles that are also like, they're very varied, and you can find something for anyone. I have no idea how to make a template that looks like this. Like this, they literally made a game with it. And if you were to make this from scratch, it would take you ages. But thanks to templates in Canva, you could literally just say, here's the topic of my presentation, here's the information that I want to give. I've structured it in like a little blank document, and then I'm going to go searching for my template that I'm going to use. And I can find exactly what it is that I'm looking for, the vibe or the general appearance. And the way that you're going to do that is if you open up, so I'm using Canva as a desktop app, but you could also use it online. It's a nice thing. It's available online through a browser. It's on your laptop, it's on your phone. And what you would then do is, if you wanted to make a presentation, you could say create, and then pick the presentation that you want, the type of document that you want to use. So if that's an email presentation, a poster, an Instagram post, an Instagram story, a flyer, document, whiteboard. There's a wide variety of document types that you can use Canva for. In this case, I'm just going to select presentation. And what it then does is it opens up a blank presentation with the slides. And if you want to look through the templates that are available for the document you chose, on the left, you have this toolbar. And we're going to first click on the design aspect. And then it says, describe your ideal design. So I think there's some AI tools baked in, but there's also templates. And this is how you're going to pick your template. So we would just type in here, let's say like, I don't know, fundraising. And then you can find, so what you're going to do is you're going to think of a word that kind of encapsulates the essence of what you're looking for, and you'll use that here for your search. And there's lots of suggestions. And then you get the search results of the templates. So I don't know, you can scroll through them. Let's say you find one that you like. So click on this one. And inside a template, there's a variety of slides. So if you select, let's say you decide this is the one I want to use, you'll pick that slide, and it automatically applies it to your documents. And then you can go and you can edit the content, you can kind of slightly rearrange things, and you can very quickly start to make it your own. You put your own spin on it and you make it a presentation for your needs. And you can mix and match templates. So if let's say I have this one and I want to now use a different slide, like something, you could do something completely different. I find something like this, think, oh, well, I like the color purple, I think it goes well with yellow, and then you can apply it here, and you can have mix and matched slides of very different styles, and you can edit the information and the pictures and everything like you want. But let's say you don't want to do it that way, and instead what you want to do is just be cohesive and coherent throughout the whole thing, and you want to use the whole template that you found. Then you would just say apply all 10 pages, and it automatically inserts all of the different slides that were included in that template. And from my personal experience, usually I'll look for something that really it matches what I'm looking for. If it's the color palette or the amounts of like the arrangement of the text and then the visual elements and things like that. When I find something that I want, if there's 10 pre-made slides in that presentation template, sometimes I'll maybe only use 3 or 4. Usually I'll definitely use the title page. And then like I might find that a certain slide is conducive to the information that I need to convey. So like, for example, this one is nice because it has a heading. It has quite a large amount of free space. I like that it has the categories. So if I needed to have different headings on the slide, I could then change these. Be like, oh, this is my first topic and it's my second topic and so on. And you can move things around. So if I can delete this one and then move this across and have it be like a slide with 2 points on it. And if I wanted to have more information, all of a sudden I have space to do that. And you don't have, like I was saying, you don't have to use every single slide in the template. You might find I only like to use this one that I just said. So I'll move that to the front. You just click and drag, and then maybe let's see what else there is. Maybe this slide, even though it's the very end, maybe that would be nice as a content page, and I could change this and say contents and just delete this text box, and then just I could change this text to be the different elements inside my presentation. And then let's say you want slide 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's all you need for your purposes. You can just highlight the rest and delete it, and then that will be your presentation. And like you can see, this presentation is already complete in terms of visual, like the appearance of it. And then if you just took your information and you added it in, then you'd be A for away, and you just got a nice looking presentation with about 15 minutes worth of work. So templates are really powerful. Just to go back to my own presentation, I reckon that if you were to try to make a very effective presentation and you had an hour to do so, and you spent 15 to 20 minutes at the beginning of the presentation picking the right template, the one that you wanted, that the layout matched how much information you need, the ratio of information versus pictures. You spend 20 minutes doing that, and you have 40 minutes left to start to actually insert your information and move things around. You could do it within an hour, and most of it then becomes this message aspect. You've now almost entirely completed the visual part of your presentation, and now you're starting to think of creative ways to reduce the content and use visual elements to do storytelling. Because I mean, I found that when I attend presentations, if all of the text that the person is presenting is written on the slide, I find it very hard to listen to them, because I just realize, oh wait, it's on the slide, I can read it, I'll read it faster than they can speak, and then I kind of just lose interest and I battle to pay attention. But if you have pictures and you use visual storytelling, it becomes a lot easier to follow along. And that's really what we're going to be trying to do, which is to say it visually, to visually portray certain elements in our presentation. And there's the old adage that a picture's worth 1,000 words, and sometimes using a few pictures can allow you to very effectively explain a complicated topic. And there's a few different aspects or like categories of things that you can use in Canva for this. So you're going to be spending all of your time in this editor's page. And like I said, we use design to pick your templates. And then let's say now you have your templates, you can go to elements because you want to start inserting like a text box, which would be text. You could just include that. But usually what you'll be doing is just editing the text boxes that came with the template. But in elements, you have pictures, so photos, graphics, frames, and what these allow you to do is to introduce that visual element to your presentation. So everything works off of the same mechanism that you use to find your template. Basically, you'll type in a concept or word, an explanation or whatever in the search box, and then you'll find a related thing. So for example, if I typed in car, and then it has all the different categories, so the graphics, photos, videos. If I go to graphics, then I can look through the cars that are available. And then you can just pick one and it'll go on your slide, and you can do whatever you want with that. Some of them allow you to edit the pictures, some of them don't. An important aspect to note is that on the templates and elements and everything, you might see this crown in the bottom right. And what that means is that it's something that's locked behind a paywall for the premium plan. So if you have the premium plan, you can use those elements because whichever graphic designer made that, they kind of are selling it. They're getting a cut of the subscription. But if you don't have the premium plan, then you won't be able to use that. But I didn't have the premium plan for a very long time. I think it's, if you are interested, it's like 100 Rand a month or something like that. But there's a lot of free things that you can use as well. Like there are a lot of free cars, like that Porsche that I clicked on, that was free. And you're not that limited. The only thing that premium plans come into that could be very helpful is, like, let's say you make a video, and then the resolution that you can export the video at is determined by the plan. So like 1080p is free, and then if you wanted to do like 4K or something, that is paid. But I don't think you should really run into too many problems with that. So graphics are very nice because they are meant to be used creatively. It's not a picture, but then there are photos of that. So if I go to photos, type in car again, then you'll get like actual photos. So what people usually use, these are just like stock images, and you would insert it somewhere in the background. Like I think you've seen a lot of corporate presentations will have people shaking hands and whatever is going on in the back. You would find stuff like that in your photos. And then something that's cool is that you have this other concept called a frame. And the frames have these little pictures on them, the land and the sky and the cloud. And what these essentially do is hold other elements. So if I just, for example, let's take, I don't know, these people. You take this picture, and now this is the element on the slide, and you drag this towards whichever frame you want to insert it on. So I'll just do it in the middle, and you drop it in, and now you have a container that holds your picture, and the picture is adapted in size. So if I double click on it, you can see the picture aspect ratio it's more of a rectangle, is wider than the frame that I put it into. So you could move it around depending on what aspect, which part of the picture you want to be focused on. And then you just click away and it fixes it. And you can do stuff like a trick that I often use. Let me just zoom in a bit for you guys. So a trick that I often use is if I want to put in a picture in, and then I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but top corners don't seem very nice. So I'll just do some corner rounding. So you have on your editing slide this kind of toolbar at the top. What's available here changes depending on what you've selected. So if I select this frame with this picture, I get some picture options. Corner rounding is one of them. So I'll click on that. You can just adjust the corners. So you can make it completely circular or completely square and just change it. So if I did something like this, I think that looks nicer. Then if I take a look at the stroke, which is like the border of the frame, I'll just make it, currently it has nothing. If I click on here, it makes it 4 by default. And then I would just select a color, and you have a large palette. So you can use gradient colors, you can use default colors, you can use the dropper to set the RGB values for whatever custom color you want. But you can also just use, in my case, oops, that's the wrong color. Sorry, let me click here. This is the color for the frame, and then this is the color for the stroke. And if I do that, then it gives it a nice white frame like I did up here. And in my opinion, it looks better, but everyone's taste is different, and you can use these to really edit things to whatever your heart's content is. And you get some cool frames, like there's frames that are like a phone and laptops, and you can do stuff like, let's say you look for, I don't know, friends, and then go out of photos, sorry, and I go to videos and search that again. Then click on this, you get the video, and then I'll just put the video in the laptop. And then if I open my screen, now on your slide, you'll have this playing. And if you, let's say you had presentation, like a video of yourself doing something, you could insert that there. So it's quite nice. You have a lot of control over what it is that you can do. And like I said, the nice thing about Canva is it allows you to do all of this stuff very quickly. So then the next aspect, after you have all your graphics, the thing is, like I said, if you had 40 minutes to edit your presentation to be how you want it to be, then one of the things you'd be doing is trying to see which part of my presentation, like the information I have to go through, what can I represent visually and what can I represent with text, and how can I break that down to be harmonious so that my slides aren't completely covered in text, but also I can convey information that people can understand. And you just kind of get creative by going through the pictures and thinking, oh, so for here, I'm trying to show that you can convey information through images. So the one thing was I just searched here for information, and I found this picture, which I thought was nice because it has the word information in it. And then the next one was about shrinking information. So I just found a little guy holding a little house, and then how you can use pictures to shrink information in a way that people can understand. And then I found this picture, which seemed kind of suitable of being able to structure someone's thoughts so that they can understand. Just stuff like that, where you're trying to use the pictures creatively to tell the story that you're trying to tell. The next aspect is once you have all of your elements, you can use animations. So you can use animations to make your slide. Like these don't have any animations on them except for like the individual elements. But let's say these ones, the text appears, and there's typical stuff like if I click on this text box, now there's an animate box. If I open that up, you get this animation menu on the left. And you have all these different, standard animations of how things can appear on the slide. You get some timing information. So you want it to animate when you go onto the slide and then also when you exit the slide. And I think I had it on enter. And you can also remove it. So you have a few options, and that's just the standard stuff. But there's also animations like this. You have a custom animation where this car, I just found this like road map as an element. I think it was a graphic, and I just pasted it on, and then I grouped it together. So what you can do is if you have multiple pictures, so if I say ungroup here, let me just redo this here for you guys to see. So if I have this picture and then I wanted to have a larger map, so I just did like Control D, which duplicated it, and then did that again, and I got 3. And if I want to move them, if I grab it now, it doesn't move very nicely. So what I want to do is group. So I'll just first click on this green background, lock it, so that if I select, it doesn't select that block. And I'll go here on these 3 blocks, I'll say group. Then I can unlock my background. Now you see if I move it, they all move together. And then what I did was I added an animation for this car so that if I click on my slide, the car pop. Oops, see that went wrong. Let me say, right click here, the layer. Well, I think that's at the front, but this needs to go backwards. That needs the green needs to go to the back. So I'll do that. So now I think my car should drive over the top of the thing now. If I click on it, yeah, there we go. I can make a custom animation where a car does something silly like drive around the page. Or you could have a bee, and the bee can fly around the page and settle on the place where you want people's eyes to be. And the way that you do a custom animation like that is you insert a graphic. So I inserted a car, and you say animate. And at the top, there's this bee, and it says create an animation. So you click on this, and what happens is so I need to delete I defined this path. Basically, you pick it up, you like click on it, and you just drag it around, and it records where you're like taking it, and that becomes the path for the animation. So if I say delete path, then currently there's nothing, and it says select and drag an element around the canvas to create your animation. So I click this and go, whoa, and just fly it around and whatever, and let go, then that becomes the animation for that graphic. And you can kind of change the speed for that so it doesn't go as fast. And you can create like really quick custom animations in that way, which I find, I don't use it too often, but it's at least something to know. And then one of the last things that you might find useful, like what we've gone through so far covers mostly everything you would need to make a nice presentation and to do it very quickly in Canva. But something you might find that, something's missing. For example, I think in the text boxes, you can't do sub and superscripts. So you can't have if you had like a, I don't know, a chemical formula for something like H2O, you couldn't put the 2 below the H. you might find that's a bit of a pain. One way you could do it is to have two text boxes and manually place the 2 below the H. But another thing you could do, or if you need to do maths, is you can add an app that allows you to do LaTeX maths. So on the left-hand side, we have design elements. We've been through those. Uploads, you can upload your own media that you might need to add into your presentation. You could also just copy paste it in. But apps is where you'll find extra stuff. So these are places where you can find apps that people have developed to add in additional features to Canva. So if I go here and I say, I think it was like maths, a lot of maths or LaTeX in my case. Yeah, LaTeX maths. So you'd click on this, and in my case, it's installed already at the bottom. Below this horizontal line, you can see the apps that you have. And I have LaTeX math as one of them. So what that allows me, to do is I can type in like a formula in like LaTeX notation or syntax, and then it will render an equation for me and add it there. So for example, I have an equation here, which is for a certain entity. And what it then does is it renders it for you below as a preview so you can see. And then you can select the color for it. So it's black. I could make it turquoise. It'll be a bit difficult to see, but yeah, it's turquoise now. You can add alt text for the equation to make your presentation more accessible. And then, yeah, you can include maths that way, which I found very useful. And then another one is like QR codes, for example. You can generate QR codes from links. So I think I searched here in my apps for like, so there's some hotkey stuff. So like if you have your slide selected and you do like R, it'll open up a rectangle. It was just like auto insert one for you. Same thing with C, will make like a circle, stuff like that. So I don't usually use that. It can be a bit of a mistake. Sometimes I start typing something and it inserts. But the QR code one, I found that useful for, like, example, you make a presentation, you have a research paper that's been published somewhere, and now you want someone to be able to scan that off of your presentation. You pick one of your many QR code apps. I think my one is, oh, this thing is in the way. Yeah, it's at the bottom of my screen. I actually don't know how to get rid of this annotate. But yeah, you click on it, you'd insert the link, and it'll auto generate the QR code for you. And yeah, I think that's kind of all the time that we had for today. But if I had to just go back and summarize for you, the most important aspect is Canva will do all of the heavy lifting for you visually for your presentation. And if you want to make good looking presentations and do it very quickly, it's worth checking out. And the big thing for you to take a look at then is templates. Like, this will do most of the work for you. And just to recap, if you want to change it, if you want to make a presentation, let me just see if I can slide this Zoom thing out the way. Yeah, you'd make a blank presentation. So you'd say create your presentation. You can click on that, and then you go to your toolbar on the left, you go design, and you have templates selected, and you search for your templates. So let's say you had the thesis defense coming up, you go thesis defense, and there are a lot of templates for you to use. You can find the one that suits what you're looking for, select it, decide if you like it or not. If you don't, you can go back and you can keep looking. If you do like it, then you can click on that, say apply all 10 pages, and start editing from there. And I think that will really get you going well. And if you need more help on stuff like this, then there are a lot of online resources available for Canva. So I'm sure you'll be able to find help to do the thing that you need. Yeah, great. So that kind of concludes it for today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shane. That was really useful and nice to see. And nice that you mentioned the thesis defense, because I'm going to be definitely using this for my when it comes up soon. I see that there are a few questions in the chat. One of them being asking about Reveal.js or Quarto. We'll be sure to try and make micro schools for those as well, because they're different options for different uses, if you like. There was a question about using the paid version, which you touched on there, that it's optional, but you eventually moved on to it, but the free version is definitely quite full. There's one question that I think wasn't addressed about what format is the presentation saved in? So when you want to export
Yes, okay. Okay, so let me share my screen again. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So if you want to export your, wait, I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let me find. Yeah, I think it's this one. So can you see Canva? Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like you can. Okay, so you've made your presentation and now you want to export it. So you'll go to share on the top right and you'll click that. And then you have some options. If you want to download it, you click on this and it will download as a PDF, which is the standard, but you can also export to a PowerPoint document. So if you do that, just double check it before you like don't export it to PowerPoint and then not open it up until the day you do the presentation, because sometimes things can move around very slightly. Like let's say you use a font in Canva that's not available in the PowerPoint that you have installed, then something might change there. It might use a slightly different font. If you have certain shapes on the template, those shapes will be like manually inserted in the PowerPoint document. So you might have to just drag things a little bit. But yeah, you have options. So there's PowerPoint, you can export as MP4, as an image, GIF. So you have a lot of options. And like I said, you go here, you can compress it or flatten it or include your notes, because one thing you'll probably do, like I was saying, to focus on the message is not have all of the information dense on your page. You would instead make notes for yourself so that when you do the presentation, for example, have this, there's very little information on there. You have this notes functionality and then type in like these are the things that you'll be reading when you do your presentation. And when you want to actually do the presentation, you can use this present functionality. If I say presenter view, then what happens is this enters full screen, but let me just move this window. I think the presenter view is supposed to be somewhere. Oh, it did open on the other window. So let me just open up my desktop. Then you get something that looks like this. And this is the presenter view. So I think it's very similar to PowerPoint. You have your notes on the right-hand side, so you know what to say. It covers your information. You have an overview of your slides, because I found something that would sometimes be a problem is you say a lot of things and you move on to the next slide and you go, oh no, I've already said all the things that are on the slide. And you won't make that mistake again if you have the slides ahead. You can see what's coming up and you know exactly how to tee up the information coming next. Yeah.
Excellent. That's very helpful. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah, very, very useful actually, all of these parts. I think that's most of the questions. There's one about sharing the presentation slides. We'll get
I'd
those
be
after
happy
and
to do
then
that,
link
yeah.
them to either the YouTube video. I think will be the easiest way to share it with everyone widely. We'll share a link for that, or on the NITheCS website. And then, yeah, there was one last question about using math equations in Canva, which I was also curious about, but it's very good to see you can have an app that does the LaTeX right there for you.
Yeah.
That's all the questions in the chat. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to ask a live question, feel free to unmute and you can ask. Looks like you explained everything very well. I don't think there are any questions there, but very, very nice to see everything like this. I'm sure everyone enjoyed a whole lot. I know I definitely did. I have some presentations coming up in the next few days, and I'm definitely going to be using this to make those. So thank you, Shane, for that.
That's a pleasure.
Yes, I was just about to mention down there's a question in the chat asking about will the recording be shared? Yes, it'll be put on the NITheCS YouTube channel so that it will stay there for you to turn back to for everyone that missed any parts or that wants to share it with friends. It'll definitely be available there soon. And I think that wraps up everything and in good time. So thank you everyone for joining and thank you so much, Shane, for presenting. It was really amazing. I hope you tune in next for the next micro schools that come in the future. Thanks everyone and have a good weekend.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Bye everyone.